Welcome back. I'm so happy to see you here for game number 4. We got OpTic Gaming going up against FlyQuest. My name is Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns, joined by the only coach that I would ever need if I was here on the LCS stage, Mr. Aiden Zyrene Moon.
I mean, being your coach is pretty easy. All I had to say is, all right, how's Skarner look here?
Skarner looks good.
All right, lock it in.
I don't even need to see the comp or the game. I know Skarner's looking good, but now let's take a look at the starting rosters in this game. Selecting blue side, it's OpTic Gaming. Dhokla in the top lane, Akaadian in the jungle, PowerOfEvil at mid with Arrow bottom lane, big on support, head coach Zabutin, and strategic coach Croissant.
Loading up on the red side, it's going to be FlyQuest. In the top lane, we have Flame. In the jungle, it's Santorin, mid lane Keane, bot WildTurtle, and support JayJ with coach St. Vicious.
Now, Zyrene, I want to brace you, because with FlyQuest and OpTic, we have the highest chance of yet another base race victory here today.
Yeah, I definitely need to prepare myself. I've been on 2 of those for FlyQuest, and recently people don't know, what to make of this FlyQuest team because their come from behind victories have just been insane. The third place team currently spends on average 34.3% of their games in a major deficit, and they rank 10th, last in the league in goal differential at 15, 20, and 25 minutes. But it doesn't matter if they get behind because despite that, they're throwing in that spicy X factor that is coming in clutch, and they currently have a 7-5 over 500 record.
Who cares how long you're behind for as long as their Nexus blows up?
Yeah.
You check that box, you won the game. And last split, we talked about OpTic trying to figure out what they wanted out of the top lane specifically. And last week, they found that identity by putting Dhokla on comfort picks.
We have to talk about that, especially as we get into Champion Select here, because while you think that this team would want to play around their superstars of PowerOfEvil and Arrow, they found success with Dhokla last week, giving him things like the Yorick as a GP counter versus Golden Guardians, and even having that Fiora game. They went 2-0, and really, the team had this fantastic kind of change up in strategy, and they're currently on a 4-game winning streak. And if they continue to stay ahead of the curve, they could be looking at playoffs, which would be a first for the OpTic organization.
Well, they got to get through this game first. Let's see what the plan is here, as Zoe, Talia, and Rakan will be banned out by OpTic Gaming. FlyQuest banning out the Nocturne and the Aatrox, those 2 ever-present red side bans, along with the Varus this time around, as Gragas is the first pick for OpTic.
Which is an interesting pick here because Akaadian think aggressive junglers, but Kindred is one of the power picks that's left up right here, and Gragas is a counter to the Kindred, knocking him out of the ultimate. And I talked to PowerOfEvil, and he said that their practice had been very good this week, and so I'm seeing things like the Gragas potentially countering a Kindred are things that have been popping up a little bit more in this week of the LCS.
FlyQuest picking up that Sejuani for themselves. They're saying, hey, you want to grab the early tanky initiator style of a jungler? We'll go ahead and do the same for us. And now,
please,
Quinn being hovered. This is a champion that has been plaguing solo queue recently, but it looks like we won't see that locked in just yet. Instead, going to continue with the Freljord, locking the Braum there for the bottom.
I mean, JayJ, the Braum Varus has been so powerful for them. In terms of JayJ's overall record, he's 6-2 right now on this team. And the last time he had a victory was Tom Kench. But before that, it was Braum. 4 games in a row behind that. Because it was getting banned away from him afterwards.
But with it locked in again, that is a good sign there for FlyQuest. OpTic will take the Morgana into it. If your opponents are bringing a lot of CC to the table, some CC immunity will go a long way in preventing some of that setup. PowerOfEvil's teasing them. I don't know. Chat, don't get baited by this just yet. I'm trying to warn you all and brace you for the heartbreak. The Jhin will be locked in instead for OpTic.
Yeah, you're being nice to him instead of leading them on and being like,
yeah,
hey,
gotta let him down easy. Let him down easy. Maybe it'll happen, who can tell?
Exactly. Set the expectations low, so if it happened, they'd be surprised, right? Instead of let down. That's how I live my life. Anyway, Jhin gonna be locked in here for Arrow. It's one of the champions that he's been doing fantastically on, right? It's a champion that when he made his debut in the NALCS and got MVP, it was those long-range performances on Varus and Jhin.
The Varus Jhin meta, right.
Exactly. And having the Morgana alongside it, it means you can kind of double root people in that bottom lane. So you need more mobility, and that's what they've gone for here with the Ezreal from WildTurtle.
It's double root, and with that black shield from Morgana, it'll help keep that immobile Jhin safe from some of the stuff that we could see coming out from Braum or Sejuani. FlyQuest's response to that is to put WildTurtle on Ezreal, a champion that, when you think WildTurtle, you think aggro and you think mechanics. Ezreal is a champion that you can really shine in both those departments when you play it properly. We'll see how he's going to do going up against that Jhin of Arrow. As we get into the second part of the bans, FlyQuest bans out the LeBlanc, keeping that one away from PoE, as OpTic decides they don't want to deal with Dr. Mundo this game.
Yep, and the Cho'Gath going to be banned away as well. Another champion that we're seeing a lot this week that resurged, because he wasn't really played at all last week in the NALCS. He's just kind of risen up as, hey, we need a tanky top laner. There's a lot of damage in the game of League of Legends in general right now, so having something like a Mundo, a Cho'Gath, these big beef balls in the top lane is very helpful for compositions. And I want to jump back to the WildTurtle point very quickly, because you said you think aggro, you think aggressive. He hasn't played Ezreal at all this split. This is his first game on it out of their 12 games, and it hasn't been a champion that's kind of resonated with WildTurtle this split, because you think he's aggressive, he plays alongside JayJ, and they're playing these champions that can dominate the lane. Ezreal has to play a little differently to dominate the lane. He has to be very aggressive in the first few levels before backs, because when he gets tier versus like a pickaxe, he falls behind. So you have to be very aggressive, and that's what FlyQuest have been doing with their bottom lane ever since JayJ came on. They've been very aggressive, even beating people like Double Thnole in the 2v2.
Well, what they're going to do with mid lane this game, pick up that Orianna, a champion you don't necessarily have to be aggressive with. We saw a long stretch of time where Orianna wasn't really being picked that much anymore. She seemingly fell away from her previous stardom, but now she's back, and she's once again that staple of the meta where you're thinking, okay, we've got to blind pick something here. Why not Orianna is the question you have to answer, because she can seemingly fit so well in so many different compositions. The answer from OpTic will be the Syndra in the mid lane for PowerOfEvil, as well as grabbing Camille there in the top side for Dhokla.
Yeah, the Camille here, potentially for Dhokla, you would assume, but they can have Gragas top and have the Camille in the jungle. It is flexible between the two of them, but we would assume it's Camille top with the Gragas in the jungle.
Most likely.
Yeah, and Dhokla, it just makes sense for him because he's been playing those split pushers. He's been having a really great time in the top lane. He got 2 player of the games. It was his first player of the game ever. He got 2 in their 2-0 weekend last week.
And I really like to see a team enabling its players like this. All too often you see players playing something that, although it is technically top tier for the meta or for the current state of the game, if it doesn't fit their style, then maybe it's not quite that good. And instead, putting them on that comfort pick, putting them on something they excel at, can truly be the key to finding that success. And that's what OpTic's done with Dhokla.
Spoken like a true Chad Skarner.
Exactly.
The tank Skarner.
Sometimes you need a warrior in a Trinity Force, and sometimes that's how you've got to play League of Legends.
Exactly. Sometimes you need to allow your top laner to play things like the Fiora, play the Yorick, play what he needs to succeed instead of conforming to the team. And he's going to be playing that Camille up against Flame's Gangplank. So it looks like it'll be more bottom lane focus here from FlyQuest. GP ultimates on Jhin and Morgana to actually slow them down and have potential dives with Sejuani as well as the Braum on that bottom side. And I think that might be a winning strategy here for FlyQuest, but OpTic seeming like they're also in a really good spot here with their composition, because PoE on an aggressive champion like Syndra that can assassinate people seems to work out for him stylistically.
And OpTic, remember, this is a team that also in Spring Split finished 9th place overall. Did not have a very impressive freshman split in the North American LCS, joining the league with the introduction of franchising. But now into summer, they seem to be doing a lot better. It's not just the PowerOfEvil show. A lot of players on this team have shown that they've got the ability to really flip that switch and do what needs to be done for this team to find those wins. In this game, they have the chance to do it here again, going up against FlyQuest, another one of these middle-of-the-pack teams. If it comes down in these last couple weeks to vying for playoff spots, every one of these wins is going to be critical.
Absolutely. I got to talk to St. Vicious a little bit before the game, and he had said that they had been doing incredibly well on FlyQuest's side in terms of scrims, and that they've learned a lot, and they think they're going to smash today, and that they're going to do well. So believing in him a little bit here, they've got this composition that focuses towards the bottom side, and they're on pretty much, like, I wouldn't say a win streak like OpTic is, but in the last 5 games for both of these teams, they're both 4-1 in their last 5 games. And this match decides a lot on who gets to contest for those top spots like FlyQuest does, or if OpTic evens up the score.
There are a lot of FlyQuest Thundersticks in this arena today, too. You can hear the cheers coming from the crowd at home, and the team has support on site, and we'll see if that support is enough to encourage them towards the Nexus today. They will have to go up against what OpTic is bringing to the table, which is quite a lot of damage potential. If you look at this squad, if you've got a Morgana and a Gragas wandering around in your jungle, a Syndra too, there's so much catch potential. If OpTic's side gets ahead, you're going to have to be so careful on the side of FlyQuest to stop them from just running away with everything.
Exactly. There's a lot of long-range pick here on the side of OpTic, so they could pick people off on the side of FlyQuest. You can see Keane even has the cleanse to kind of make sure that that doesn't happen to him, but FlyQuest, the team fighting could come through, and it could be pretty tragic for OpTic. But we'll have to watch here. In particular, I'm watching the bottom lane from FlyQuest. I want to see what WildTurtle and JayJ do once again in this bottom lane. You can see already playing up and aggressive, knowing there's a leash on the bottom side, where Santorin solo went to the top side of the map. So let's see here. First skills actually matter here. If you can get a Braum Q and then an auto and a Q from the Ezreal.
Oh, just QQ. Only those, no extra auto. They'll go right back into normal laning stance. Make sure that they're farming up as well as they possibly can.
I feel like there's a lot of pressure here.
Anything too much just yet. Nice grenade there. Arrow gets some cheeky little damage.
Yeah, that was a good grenade from Arrow. That actually pushes WildTurtle out, even though I thought that WildTurtle and JayJ would have a little more pressure because Big started W, so that's all about shoving the wave. But he W'd the wave, got it low, and it meant that an auto plus the grenade across it would actually kill all the casters.
Arrow hits level 2 Big alongside him, which means it's time for Turtle and JayJ to just back on up. You don't want to be going up against that level 1 versus level 2, so they'll yield a little bit of control for now. Topside, Flame versus Dhokla. This is another one of those spicy matchups in top lane that, depending on if one side gets some attention, it can really go one way real quick.
Yeah, I love these matchups. Some of Camille's matchups are my favorite in the entire game, just because of the way that you have to be able to contest things, like using an attack in a Q to actually reset on the barrel and get those quick attacks out, or even just going after the Gangplank in these all-ins. When I watch somebody like Khan play this matchup as the Camille, he plays around the passive, which not a lot of Camille's actually do, but you use the passive to do things like tower dive or only go in for a large trade when you have the passive up. But you can see they've both gone for more laning superiority keystone, where Dhokla has the Comet for extra poke damage, where now we're seeing more press the attack for Camille's, and Flame has gone for the Grasp of the Undying for more poke to sustain against his poke and make it so that he's actually dealing a decent amount in trades too. So it's all about trading in the early parts.
That's always the conversation that you hear about Gangplanks whenever that champion's locked in. Is Kleptomancy versus Grasp of the Undying. Do you want to go for the greedier path that'll set you towards the Trinity Force and the Storm Razor faster, or do you need that extra survivability? He is showing a lot of respect to Dhokla going for the Grasp of the Undying, and I like that. He recognizes, hey, this is the kind of champion this guy is known for playing well. I want to make sure I don't put myself in a bad spot and let him run away with it.
Yeah, usually you take the Grasp if it's a hard, or an easy matchup or a tank matchup. And if he becomes one that flips on Gangplank like level 6 or so, like Mundo. But if it's a, it's Kleptomancy if you do that, if it's an easy matchup, right? Grasp is the ones that are harder and you need to sustain in them and at least counter the trades. That's when you take the Grasp. So the harder matchups are where you take it. The easy ones are where you take Kleptomancy to go scale.
Back to the bottom side where last time we checked in, it was Arrow and Big controlling the lane. Still seems to be the same story being told right now as Turtle stays relatively even in binding with farm. Nice binding, hits Turtle at the very end of the projectile, but he will buffer through it with the E. That's always one of the things that sometimes makes you scratch your head a bit. The Ezreal Arcane Shift away, you can get out of things if you buffer it properly with the animation. It's kind of like, it's not quite as thinking emoji as Tristana's Rocket Jump is, but it's one of the ones in there that you can get out of a lot of things.
It's actually the exact same window. It's a quarter-second cast time. So exactly the same window as the Tristana jump. It's just the animation is different, travel time.
At least Ezreal's animation is he blinks to a new spot. You're like, ah, okay, Magic did that. Tristana's is she literally jumps.
Yeah.
I don't know, it always adds a little bit of a more goofy factor to it for me, as bottom side, a lot of damage will be being put into this tier 1 turret early on from Arrow and Big, applying lots of pressure and getting the most out of it that they can down here and keeping their opponents underneath the turret. And Zyrene, when you control this much of the bottom side of the map, when you're this much when you're this far forward, shoving your opponents underneath that turret, it means that your team has control over the river. Look at what PowerOfEvil and Akaadian are doing. They're putting down wards around this middle area here, and there's an Infernal Drake up first, so OpTic, we could see them forcing a play around that rather early if this keeps up.
Exactly. You want to have that bottom lane pressure. There's a back early here to get the BF sword as soon as possible from Arrow, and that would be a great timing for him, because like I said earlier, BF sword definitely going to beat whatever you would get with like a tier for the Ezreal at this point in the game. So it would be a big power spike for OpTic. This would be around the time that you'd want to take it. So now they know. We TP back in, shove the wave, force them to CS this under turret, go for the dragon. That's exactly what they're going to do here, I believe, on the side of OpTic.
Dhokla returning a bit of damage onto Flame there in the top side. Tries to trade with that passive like you were talking about. Flame wisely anticipating that, waits to fire off the parlay until the shield falls. But Santorin has now found himself on the top side of the map here as well. Looks like he'll just smack that Scryer's Bloom. Not really get a whole lot done.
Dragon or dive here inside of OpTic. See, Akaadian and PowerOfEvil are coming down. Level 6 on PowerOfEvil. They were not spotted by any wards because they have such great vision control.
Syndra ulti can be huge for these kinds of plays. They want to go after WildTurtle. Akaadian not able to find the initiation. They're looking for damage. Still going to be coming through. First blood over to Arrow. And OpTic finds their mark and gets out.
First blood, and it goes on to WildTurtle, who blows Flash, and he just TP'd back. This is going to put him so far behind, almost about 20 CS, plus that first blood in the pocket of Arrow. That's a huge swing for the bottom lane here. Let's see that one more time because they came in from the side. Look at the river. There's control wards all throughout it, and they avoid that one shallow ward that's not deep enough to see a roam. They come in. JayJ no longer has the E to block an ultimate that would come out. WildTurtle used the flash very early and then the E, but he's already locked on there by PowerOfEvil, and there's no Braum shield, like I said before, to counter it and block off the Syndra ulti.
Well done by OpTic there, but you can see actually, looking at the gold this game, 10.8 thousand to 10.6 thousand gold, it's still coming across as overall even between the teams. You have that big 600 lead that you mentioned for Arrow specifically over WildTurtle, 2,800 to 2,200 on that 80 carry pool, but in the other roles, it's actually not going to be that much of a difference at the end of the day. When you add everybody's tally together, yes, it was a good play from OpTic, but we're not exactly calling the game in terms of OpTic just yet. Dhokla will continue pushing up on the top side. He has the Sheen, Flame has the Sheen. Both these top laners do so well with that item, but
it's just the aggressive purchase here. If you're
it's so good.
If you're defensive, you buy the Phage, or you go for boots early, but it's just like, nope, we're gonna go Sheen so that we can trade and try to all-in each other here at some point. Because it's almost like the all-in standoff where if you bought the Sheen and they bought the Phage, then you're probably in a better position with the Sheen in those short trades, right? The GP buys it and hits you with it, and you don't have anything to really all in him with back, then you kind of have to match it and threaten that. And something I want to talk about here is PowerOfEvil's build, because he went Corrupting Potion, went for the Ionian Boots of Lucidity for a shorter kind of flash cooldown, but then he has 2 Dark Seals, and he also had a Fairy Charm in his inventory earlier just for mana regen. He sold that already. It was just kind of something to get him through the laning phase. I think it might have given him roam priority to make that play because he can just spend mana over and over again without having to care about it.
Fairy Charm is an item as well. Information for anybody who doesn't know it. The item is very cheap to buy. It only costs 125 gold. When you sell it back, you sell it for 88. So you're only losing 37 gold by doing that. You're losing 3/4 of a health potion by buying and then selling back a Fairy Charm. It's really a solid investment if you are trying to use it for that early bit of an edge.
Yeah, which if it ends up working out, you can even just CS 2 more minions because of it. It's perfect. But they got a roam off it. They got an assist that's split across 3 people. On a first blood. It's going to pay for itself there.
FlyQuest now donating that blue buff over to Keane as it spawns for the second time. Akaadian moves towards that enemy jungle. He won't be able to really find much else other than a control ward, but he'll clear out some of that vision. You can see OpTic still maintaining that control over that bottom side of the river area there, considering it's near mid lane. They want to make sure that if anybody tries to collapse onto PowerOfEvil, they can stop that, as well as maintaining priority over that gank path that we saw them use earlier.
Yeah, keep that priority. Make sure that you can potentially gank the bottom lane that has no flash over again, but also Infernal Drake, and it's just the way you want to play. You don't want to go towards this Gangplank lane with the Camille in it right now, because you're not winning that matchup. You might go for a dive, but it's pretty risky. You want to go to the other side of the map. You want to make something happen there. And their turret is getting knocked down slowly but surely on the side of FlyQuest on that bottom side. So it's the easiest turret to go for, too. And you get that's the thing, is you get massive reward if something works out there. Because you can go Infernal Drake and turret at the same time.
And while the bottom side of the map does favor OpTic, if we look at the top side here, Flames farming up a storm, 83 compared to 60 in the CS department. And it's not just 83 to 60, it's 83 as Gangplank to 60, which translates to even more gold in the pocket. Flames not really being stopped right now. There's nothing impeding him from becoming that mid to late game Gangplank that has that scaling factor that can tear apart a team.
Yeah. Like I said, you don't want to go to the Gangplank in this composition so much because you've got an opening bottom and there's an Infernal and a weak turret there. But you kind of want to gank a Gangplank whenever you have the opportunity because he's just massively scaling, and it's almost like he has like 1.2x scaling if you just leave the game as it is, unharassed. And then you kind of, if you gank him, you just put him at like 1x, right? You just got to really shut him down to put it just even further behind. So it's kind of, if you put effort into the Gangplank, you really have to shut him down hard and just keep ganking him. If you can't commit to that strategy, then you just let him scale and you try to—
It's the lesser of two evils.
Exactly. You try to just hard scale a different part of the map, and they have a large advantage, right? BF Sword Swifties versus just mana items in the inventory of WildTurtle here. He's not adding any extra combat oomph, and they're going to get this turret here because of the early moves they made.
First turret going over to OpTic means not only that nice infusion of gold, but they've got extra map control around the bottom part here now as well. That could go a long way depending on what else they want to set up. Again, want to reference that Infernal Drake, especially now with Keane in some trouble here in the mid lane. Akaadian looking to come in, find him out.
Asks.
They won't get it just yet. Akaadian will make sure he tanks up as many turret shots as possible, but they can't quite finish the kill. A lot of resources invested there from OpTic to not get anything except the Hourglass and the Summoner from Keane. Meanwhile, it's Santorin who picks up the Rift Herald to the side of FlyQuest.
And Keane surviving there is huge because getting a kill onto that Syndra would have been massive. And it's because PowerOfEvil didn't have enough mana. The Dark Sphere costs 80. He had 71, and it was ticking up during the time of the stopwatch. So
maybe had a fairy charm. If only he had a fairy charm, Irene.
No. If only. Maybe. We'll see. But, jeez. That's so unlucky. Because it looked like Akaadian was like, yeah, go up there and shoot him. He's like, I don't have mana. Walked up, walked back.
You could tell that was the communication, and then you realize, wait, I'm 5 minutes short.
Yep. In that situation, it's one where PowerOfEvil, it's like even better if he's the one who's tanking and like Akaadian can maybe walk up, right? But the way the turret aggro worked out and the way that the mono worked out, just a little imprecise, and Keane plays that really well.
Keane played it in a way that set him up to survive on that small off chance that PoE ran out of mana, and he did.
Yeah.
Props to Keane for that as Akaadian goes over the wall on the Gragas to secure the Infernal Drake, but now it's PowerOfEvil found in the wrong spot. He'll have no way out as Keane makes sure they get that one, and now Big finds himself caught between an Infernal Drake and an entire FlyQuest squad taken down, as now the Drake will be focused by the rest of FlyQuest. They seem to have this one under total control, and things have suddenly taken a turn in their favor.
Yeah, there were all these wards purchased up, and remember, we talked about this area as being in kind of OpTic's favor. FlyQuest get exactly the wards they need. They see PowerOfEvil go for the Honey Fruit, come back, and they catch him on the return. Watch this here, see? Control wards in there. Keane had already actually just swept that area and came through after the wave clear, and then PowerOfEvil was not expecting a Sejuani to be there straight out of the mid lane, so he catches him off of the wards, and hold on, Dhokla and Flame.
1 for 1, but considering that means OpTic now manages to stop the pressure from Flame, slow him down a little bit, as well as the fact that they also got assist money, plus the kill money up there. I think you're okay taking that trade, but bottom side, it's WildTurtle and JayJ that now have total control over this lane and will take down the tier 1.
Yeah, they'll take down this tier 1, and that's exactly what WildTurtle needs because he's been forced into an incredibly defensive and really slow ramping build here. He's down a level behind Arrow, who's got 2 kills, has the Stormrazor and boots already done, and WildTurtle is just trying to piece together. He's got a piecemeal item build right now, no boots, nothing like that. But right here, Dhokla went in, Flame waits it out, flashes after the passive is gone, and gets the auto and the Q to finish it.
Good job from Flame. Recognizing there was no way out of that one, instead just had to go down swinging. Taking somebody with you, always better, but now it's Turtle. Has to try to sidestep away from these, does dodge the last 2 shots, stays at a high enough health pool to still hang around here, as Big and Arrow will continue pushing up. They want to put the last couple of hits onto this turret, but they recognize there's probably reinforcements coming.
Yeah, it's great that Turtle went for an armor build here. He's up against the Jhin in the bottom lane that's been doing quite well, so he has himself the Iceborne Gauntlet, and he's going to be able to take a little less damage there in those fights. So just trying to sustain and I would say just survive the lane phase or the post lane phase here for WildTurtle, because it was not pretty at the start. And with the Rift Herald that they got earlier off Keane surviving, that's going to be that mid turret getting knocked down here potentially, but nope, Shelly not going to be enough.
She gets the headbutt off, but she won't do much else. OpTic do a good job of stopping that push, preventing FlyQuest from successfully using that Rift Herald they secured so long ago. And as we're at 15 minutes into the game, I do want to point out, because we talked about FlyQuest stats earlier in the pregame, it seems like they're always behind at 15, 20, 25 minutes. FlyQuest are slightly behind at 15 minutes into this game. They are following that stat trajectory.
Whoa.
That they've followed so far, as now Keane going to be taken very low. Dhokla over the wall, looking to make the dive happen, finds the ulti, takes him out before the shockwave's able to come through, gets himself away for now, but it's Flame onto the flank, looking to still shut him off from that escape. Braum has more damage comes through over the wall. PowerOfEvil looking to stop him, but it's still 1 for 1. The rest of OpTic decide it's time to leave.
Yep, 1 for 1, but I actually think the biggest part of this trade is the fact that Arrow's left by himself in the top lane to CS and push this turret, and now they've brought WildTurtle down from FlyQuest side to kind of CS a little bit. If they don't get this turret off of this, they actually potentially just gave up that top turret to Jhin.
Arrow will continue that push. Yeah, 1 more auto attack and it's already done. And wow, there we go. Turret destroyed. That's OpTic going up 2-1 in terms of turret count. Again, just maintaining such a slight gold lead. Let's see this play mid one more time.
Yeah, Santorin Qs, throws out the R, but I feel like the Black Shield would have blocked it anyway. Like, that's actually a good play from Big because he covered the option if it did hit. And then Dhokla is able to get in the back line, plays it perfectly, gets the kill, but Flame is already there to collapse. They get the stun after stun on him with the Sejuani and Braum, and that's all she wrote, and it ends up being a 1-for-1, but OpTic do get the better of it, because now I feel like this is kind of Arrow's game to carry. He's 2-0, he's 20 CS up over WildTurtle. He's already kind of gone and paid a QSS tax to Sejuani, and so he doesn't have to worry about getting caught out later, and he's still on curve because he's just so far ahead.
And we talked about it as well. When Arrow was performing so well, when he was playing in that spring 2017 split and putting up those amazing performances, it was on Varus, it was on Jhin, it was on these longer range style champions that he seemed so comfortable with picking. And like we praised OpTic for putting Dhokla on comfort picks, for allowing him to play these split pushers that fit him stylistically, I want to give the same praise to the team for doing this with Arrow and enabling him with this Jhin that he's doing so well.
Yeah, this Jhin has been quite a good champion for him. As I look back, even in the split, they've had him play this Jhin twice already in their 4-game win streak. And before that, it was just one time where he went 0-1-2. So overall, his Jhin performances, even in their loss, was quite good. His Pazu KDA, single death. So his Jhin, it checks out when I look at the stats.
The numbers are there. We crunched everything. It adds up. The Jhin is good. FlyQuest still going blow for blow with these guys, though. The gold very close between the two teams. Second Infernal Drake will be spawning here in under a minute. Baron under 2. Still only 7 kills between the two teams, so not exactly a bloodbath just yet. But remember, this is OpTic versus FlyQuest. This could end in a base race at the drop of a hat.
Oh my god.
If anyone's going to drop their hat for some reason.
A Nexus rush, anything like that. I mean, I almost threw my hat on the ground when it happened before. Twice! I don't know what I'd say this time. Be not again.
Not again. Yeah. Just keep adding agains to it as it happens more and more and more.
Again. But right now, they're actually just kind of around the Infernal Drake. Dhokla shoving the top lane versus Flame. I still feel like this goes in the favor of Flame in this matchup because he got ahead and has the grasp. And now they really don't want to give a second Infernal over to FlyQuest. And in fact, you want the Jhin to have this Infernal Drake. Because FlyQuest are actually technically more powerful than OpTic right now because of the gold. The gold is a little bit in favor of OpTic, but the Infernal Drake's going to lie to you.
The Infernal Drake adds up extra gold's worth of stats that is not displayed in the gold comparison. As FlyQuest will move themselves down there, start this objective up. They're daring OpTic to answer. Both top laners have teleport available. Gangplank ulti can also rain down on this one. If FlyQuest decide to do that, Arrow's going to be taken very low. Akaadian wants to come in here, tries to throw in the cast, wants to go back into the fight. Instead, it's going to be secured by Santorin. As Akaadian tries to get out, the True Shot Barrage comes through. Akaadian barely going to be kept alive. Keane wants to find a little bit of damage. Instead, walks a bit too close. Shockwave's going to force the flash away from PowerOfEvil.
Oh, we got Keane!
Ball opens up. Keane's going to have that last one body blocked for him, but it's WildTurtle on the front line. He found a kill! There's one! He ends up giving himself away for it as now the gun's coming out. More damage going through as they pop Arrow as well. OpTic have already lost 2. FlyQuest looking to find even more from this one. Santorin barely going to be getting himself away. Flame still there on the front line. And we will disengage the fight. Woo!
Woo! That was insane. That was just everybody is just slamming whatever they can on the keyboard to make it happen. Arrow there, he could have cleaned up that fight. He uses his QSS too early, and then he gets double stunned afterwards. If he had cleansed one of those stuns, he would have been able to get that 4th shot off and potentially get a kill and just reset the fight and start cleaning it up. But let's see that one more time, because he did whatever he could in terms of mechanics. Akaadian went in, didn't really get the Drake right here, pressed the W so he takes reduced damage. Would have dropped there, I believe, based on how much he took. Then there's the shot, Arrow backs up, ultis. One shot into Santorin, one into Keane, another one into Santorin. This one goes into WildTurtle, goes forward, hits him, doesn't finish him off, goes forward, right here. QSS's, and then he gets stunned. Then he gets stunned again by the Braum. Had the crit ready to go if he was able to get that off. That's just a mistiming there. And a panic, because when you have the 3 Braum stacks on you and the 4 Sejuani ones, you're like, I'm going to get Braum stunned now. Mistimes it, because you kind of had to react to it. You did it a little predictively as opposed to reactively.
And I talked about aggro being one of WildTurtle's calling cards. He gets taken down to 200 HP and says, nah, going in.
Yeah, but he took that card and put it in their pocket.
He did. He went in there and made that kill happen still. Yes, he goes down for it, but he does get his mark. 181 farm, 1-2-1 on this Ezreal now. Does have that Morgana completely stacked. So the damage is finally starting to show up a bit for WildTurtle on the Ezreal, but when you compare it to Arrow, when you look at the rapid fire cannon, when you look at the Storm Razor, that Jhin still has so much damage capability if he doesn't get stun locked like you already brought up in that last team.
And he had to play frontline on that one because he was off on the side, and when WildTurtle went forward, he tried to seize the opportunity, went forward and almost killed Turtle at the start of it. If that one shot had actually just done it, then he would have been able to just give a little bit more to that fight. But like you said, slight misplay there, but that's the thing is those misplays, they stick out more when you're in a position to carry the game.
Right.
Right? If you're the person who has all of the gold and then you get shut down because of this misstep, you give over a lot for a small mistake.
It's the classic solo queue problem of I'm the only person on my team not feeding, and that means as soon as I make one mistake, the game is over because so much of it is then on you. Obviously, it's not to the same degree in professional play as it is in solo queue, but the principle reigns true. The underlying rules of if you're the guy everybody's relying on, your mistakes are magnified to the nth degree is there.
Yeah, because then you give over a lot of gold, you get shut down, and the momentum is a little bit taken away from you. So FlyQuest, with the 2 Infernal Drakes from that fight and the fact that they got some shutdowns, find themselves now slightly in the gold lead, both physically and also if you add up all those extra stats from the Infernal Drake.
I would say this is like a seesaw gold lead where it goes back and forth a little bit, but it's a seesaw that's barely moving. Both guys are just tapping it with their toes a little bit. Nobody's actually pushing real hard because it won't go very far one direction or the other. One side will take the very smallest lead, and then the other side will take it right back. Items starting to come online too. If you look at the inventories of both the mid laners, it's Luden's Echo plus Oblivion Orb. This is the I'm going to delete you itemization for those first couple of pickups. That means if these guys find anybody stepping over the line, being a bit too far forward, they've got quite a lot of punish potential.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm a little iffy about here is that PowerOfEvil went for the Ionian Boots of Lucidity, and he doesn't have something like Cleanse for the Sejuani. It's more just the heal and the flash. And he doesn't have Spell Pen Boots, which would be incredibly effective against like WildTurtle or a Marksman because you force them to maybe buy a Hex Drinker or augment their build. So his burst potential is actually going to be lower on this Syndra because of that. And I'm interested to see, because they seem to be putting a lot of faith in him too, because Akaadian, hold on, oh, Big
tries to make sure he saves PowerOfEvil, finds himself in a bit of a hard spot. Instead, Shockwave coming out timed just perfectly. Big is taken down as the curtain call opens up. More damage coming out now, finding the second member of FlyQuest almost. JayJ taken down. Big and JayJ, both supports out of the picture. Akaadian now going to be in some danger here. Himself has to go into the stopwatch. But FlyQuest is still hanging out there. All 4 members need a killing spree for Flame, as FlyQuest make it a 2-for-1.
And Dhokla's going to be in the side lane. Don't know if he's going to try to accomplish anything here. He's got a split push build going. This is not going to be a semi-tank Camille. This is going to be the Ravenous Hydra, not the Titanic. So he's looking for split push. He's looking for 1v1 potential, trading and then healing back up off of the Ravenous when he gets it. So he's basically fully committed to not joining fights unless they're picks or collapses off of a 1 fight.
But the man that you've got a split push against, hold on, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's take another look at exactly how this play happened middle.
Yep, Black Shield PowerOfEvil gets in the way, cleanses, and then uses the stopwatch. And then, yep, Keane picks that one up with the ball. Akaadian then commits to get JayJ back, but then it was really the lack of vision control on the bottom right side. Akaadian goes after the Raptors, and usually the Raptors kind of give you a good idea if there's somebody there, because they'll go attack them instead. And so they lied to Akaadian, they set him up. Dastardly chickens.
Tricky, tricky. But what I was getting to saying was, you're going for the split push build as Dhokla, but the guy you're having to split push up against, a Gangplank that's 5-1-2, that has the Sterix Gauge and Trinity Force already completed, working on the Youmuu's Ghostblade, and is almost 2,000 gold ahead of you. Yeah. That's a very difficult task to be charged with, and Dhokla's going to have to find either an incredible outplay or just general overall control of the map to such a higher degree than Flame if he wants to have that split push in.
The Mountain Drake is going to do exactly that for him. So FlyQuest have kind of the Drakes you would want on the Gangplank, the 2 Infernals to help him join fights, build a lot of AD, and then kind of throw down the ultimate, throw down the barrels, and make big chains happen for the team. But OpTic have the one that Dhokla wants on the split push Camille. He has that Mountain Drake. And right here, Baron, they waltz straight through mid lane.
OpTic has to be aware of this.
There's no blue trinket. They have to walk up.
Gotta walk up and face check. Blue trinket gonna be placed down there. Akaadian gets hit by the Sejuani ultimate. FlyQuest calls for staying onto the Baron. They manage to find it for themselves. Now the fight breaks out. Gangplank ultimate zones OpTic away so they can't immediately collapse. Turtle goes over the wall, tries to get out of this one. The rest of FlyQuest moving away as a unit. Turtle picks up the red buff while he leaves, and FlyQuest get Baron for free.
Yep. They're going to lose the mid turret for it, but that's about it. Mid turret, mid priority, that's it. They're going to have to shove these waves out. Bottom, top, and mid look like they're all pushing towards FlyQuest. So they'll have to kind of shave off about 30 seconds from their Baron buff as they push it out. But they're all grouping mid. Hey, it's the FlyQuest special. They did this versus 100 Thieves. All mid. It's the NA RAM.
Well, it works. FlyQuest is a team that just decides on a plan and they say, hey, we're doing this. And I love to see that level of shot calling. I love to see that level of decisiveness that this team demonstrates because now they've got control over the game. This has been so close for so long. Now they're in a spot where they're able to force things out, and Akaadian is forced back to the spawn platform the hard way. 0-3 now as FlyQuest have a 5v4 for the next 35 seconds, pushing down the mid lane onto the tier 2. They'll move forward and look for that inhibitor turret.
Heart goes out to Akaadian. The guy just wants to get his chickens one time, and without it being contested,
Not today.
All show up, and then they pick him off again. Same scene of the crime. And looking for some picks, looking for some wave clear here from OpTic. And now Flame is shoving the bottom lane out. He's the one with the shoe on the other foot, saying, Dhokla, I'm the one split pushing. He's going to start getting turrets. Dhokla's going to have to match with the team.
And the rest of FlyQuest is happy to just sit here, outnumbering their opponents, allowing this Baron up cannon minion to slowly chip away at that turret. And it makes things so easy for Flame to apply the pressure into the bottom side. Mid lane inhib turret already gone, as Flame will now bring a second lane to the inhibitor line.
Santorin has ulti. As they push for this, you have to watch the engage. The hard engage because Dhokla's not there. A Sejuani ultimate and GP ultimate.
JayJ jumps in, thinking about PowerOfEvil here. Santorin on the front line, not afraid to absorb a couple of those shots from Arrow, but he is going to be taken very low here. Shield coming out there from the Orianna to make sure he stays alive. JayJ having to jump away now. PowerOfEvil nearly able to take him down with the ulti. Dhokla doesn't want to go any further forward. Turtle goes forward with his PowerOfEvil barely walking away from that one. The Mystic shot just to the side as Akaadian will go down now. FlyQuest finds one, continuing the push now in the OpTic base. Big doing a good job making sure he intercepts those shots, keeping his mid laner alive. But OpTic still has to defend 4 versus 5. Turtle's low on mana. FlyQuest did use some resources in that fight. Now they're looking to have to back up. Arrow coming in with the damage. JayJ gonna be taken low. Pops the support hourglass just to make sure, not even an hourglass, a stopwatch I should say, to make sure that he buys his team enough time to walk away.
Yeah, but they're chasing. Arrow waiting for things like the W, chasing them down because he knows that Keane has no mana. Dhokla, it's also a position where if he can get a good hook shot in, he would look for it. He's gonna push them out, make sure that the reset is all the way back. They're saying do not pass go, walk all the way back.
No silly mistakes on this one. FlyQuest want to make sure they can close this game out cleanly. They don't want to give it away when they've come so far and got so close to that enemy nexus.
And they are looking fantastic right now on the side of FlyQuest. Keane, he's 50 CS down on PowerOfEvil, but the team fight impact that we talked about after draft with the compositions, that's where it comes in here. And this is your Ace or Predator replay. As once again, Arrow opens up. Ultimate backwards from Santorin. JayJ doesn't drop immediately, and then they commit afterwards. They go back in because PowerOfEvil went too far forward looking for that. Akaadian's body blocking for him. He has to make sure that he doesn't get dropped there by the skill shots coming through. He pays for it. And then, honestly, right here, WildTurtle goes forward, almost hits PowerOfEvil again, and Big has to body block for him. Everyone is protecting President PoE on that.
Because if you don't, the game likely could end right there. He's so important for this team. Baron power play of over 3,000 gold there for FlyQuest. They still command about a 5,000 gold lead. Santorin going to take some damage there over the wall, but that's not really the guy you want to invest in hurting. Sejuani, no Warmogs completed just yet, so at least the damage will stick for now. But FlyQuest still feels pretty comfortable in the spot they're in. Next Drake will be spawning in under a minute as they fight for control over this river area. Skill shots being thrown back and forth from both sides. Gangplank ultimate coming down as they decide they're going to go ahead and collapse right onto PoE. A little bit more damage will take them down. They do find the shutdown there. Credit going over to Keane as FlyQuest now might be collapsed on it. It's OpTic who found their fight. Flame's going to be taken very low. The Sterix procs, it doesn't even matter. That's going to be the ace for OpTic Gaming.
With his dying breath, PoE says, I'm going down, but I'm taking all of you with me. A perfect scatter the weak across the team. A posthumous team fight win there for PoE, and OpTic are the ones who clean it up when it was engaged by FlyQuest.
This is the episode where the main character dies but takes down the whole enemy legion with him. What an incredible showing there from OpTic to find that fight. Let's take another look.
Yeah, right here, 5 on 5, it's grouped up. PoE just used the scatter of the week. The ultimate comes through from Santorin. They're trying to protect him. He gets away, flashes for the time, throws out the ultimate. There's the stun across everyone. That is a 5-man Syndra stun to set up the team, to set up the turnaround. Absolutely perfect from the star mid laner of OpTic.
The stuff dreams are made of. Sometimes it doesn't even matter if you die. If you can set the team up like that, that was so huge for OpTic. This brings them back to a point where they're almost even in this game. It also allows them to make sure that they get Infernal Drake number 3, keeping that away from FlyQuest. The comparison between a 1-2 split on Infernal Drakes and a 0-3, you have 8%, they have 16% now. That feels okay. Otherwise, it would have been 0-24. That doesn't feel okay.
No, that would have been really bad, and especially when it's Infernal Drake that you get onto something like the Jhin, because he's the best champion in the entire game mathematically to have that, because he gets so much AD that it just multiplies this massive amount. He's running around with 500. He doesn't even have something like Hail of Blades. He ran the Fleet Footwork for the lane phase and for the healing, and now he's on those 3 items.
And talking about items, where everybody is right now, we know the Jhin got the QSS a long time ago to prevent some of the CC. Also currently sitting on stopwatch. He's got that stasis, that big playmaking item. Santorin on the Sejuani, I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, didn't have the Warmogs just yet, now has that up and running. So any poke onto him is not going to be very effective. We're starting to hit massive AP points on mid laners as well.
This is scary because both have open mids right now in terms of turrets. You can go run and get an inhibitor, and there's mid priority right now. You see Dhokla, he's saying split push duty once again. If OpTic end up keeping him there, keep him at Baron and can slow it enough, it looks like actually Dokla's going to join. They're looking for a team fight instead of the split.
Baron's taken down to about half. Gangplank ultimate already going to be used here as OpTic decide they're going to force the fight out. Arrow opens up the ulti. Flame will immediately make that cancel out with the barrels. All 5 members of both teams are here.
Oh, so good.
Nice Black Shield from Big, but is it going to be enough? OpTic still kiting themselves
Dhokla
back. Inhibitor has respawned in the mid lane for OpTic. And it looks like they're trying to FlyQuest. Dhokla into the enemy base. Stop the backs, he says, as FlyQuest have to find a way back to save these structures and save this base. Dhokla takes down the middle inhibitor, and he'll continue now retreating towards the rest of his team. He doesn't want to try to commit to anything else. They weren't able to stop all the backs, but that's still a win for OpTic Gaming.
Exactly, and it's even better because their mid inhib respawned, and they just took the enemies, which will be down for 5 minutes, and that means that this Baron is what they're going to look at right now. Dhokla caught out of position. Oh, that's
out. Chain CC'd, stunned up. Dokla's going to be in some serious trouble here. Damage over the wall will not be enough. And now OpTic's fortunes have turned. FlyQuest take control now, catching out that enemy top laner. 45 seconds, 50 seconds even, he'll be dead, that they have to try to control this map, get some vision down, put waves where they want them without the threat of Dhokla going for some kind of a split push.
Yeah, this bottom turret taking some damage, but the minions are going to swap off, get a little distracted there. Attention issues sometimes, you know, they like to do their own thing, but ooh, WildTurtle. Oh, nice block.
If they catch Turtle here, that could just be huge for the side of OpTic. JayJ doing a great job keeping him defended. PowerOfEvil still looking to chase him down.
He's hunting right now.
He's really trying to sniff out Turtle here, but FlyQuest recognizes the fact that their AD carry is very low. They decide to retreat.
Because remember, Dhokla has teleport, so if you can't kill this Baron in 15 seconds and get out, then you're going to have a Camille joining the fight. And right there, they clear out the vision. OpTic are saying it's our time to start up that Baron. Mid-wave needs some maintenance. So even if OpTic don't do this or commit to it, they back up. That mid-wave is going to have 2 stacked super minions in it. And then they can back up and just say, all right, looks like we can potentially win this in numbers.
The dance continues. TP channeled from the side of FlyQuest, making sure they're ready on this one.
I think OpTic just back out, because look at that minion wave mid. Somebody has to go answer that thing. They got the teleport and that minion wave. 2 super minions in it.
I like the fact that Dhokla saved the TP the entire time, just in case FlyQuest committed to that Baron fight. Dhokla goes for the TP onto the minion wave and ends the game.
Exactly. And I like that he's gathering all this side lane gold for himself too. He's actually, we were talking about how far ahead Flame was, where he was 3-1 in his scoreline. Scorelines are almost identical here. There's just one more death to the side of on Dhokla, but the gold is still in favor of Flame. He's at that point now where he's almost full items. He needs one more. But Dhokla is about 1.5 behind. About to have his GA. which I think is what he really wants here. There it is.
Yeah, he does complete that now. Very big purchase, obviously, to compare the components to the finished item.
A lot of times people are like, I need to back and complete an item, and you're like, oh, what are you going to get? And they grab like this completed like Warmogs like later in the game. You're like, I don't know. It's like getting the GA is huge because you really do want that right before the fight. Look at that. Like you said, seesaw for the beginning.
Yeah.
And now it's been a bit of a roller coaster.
Now,
no loops in this one just yet. Almost. They teased us a little bit.
Coming this summer, you're going to build a new coaster. We'll see if FlyQuest can continue control over this game. For now, they bring down the Gangplank ultimate. Nice binding coming out onto Turtle. OpTic decide they don't want to try to immediately turn things around off of that. Instead, they'll just take the disengage and allow Dhokla to continue split pushing. He's set up yet again here in the bottom lane. Only needs one swift attack onto this turret to take it down. There we go, a quick kick. And it's out of there. That's turret number 6 for the side of OpTic Gaming. As again, the name of the game, Zyrene, is Baron control. Both these teams just back and forth trying to control this part of the map.
They look like they were probably potentially looking for a pick onto Dhokla. I have to say, these players have all been playing incredibly well. I feel like Dhokla is splitting. The timing of it has been great. PowerOfEvil with the clutch team fighting. Arrow, he's gotten really a great start. And then hold on.
Curtain call opens up. This is going to be a big fight, I would expect. Santorin goes into Gargoyle Stoneplate mode, though, and I'm instantly made a liar as the amount of tankiness on that Sejuani means it's time to just back right away.
Yeah, but I also want to talk about Big here. Big has been doing so well this game. He's like the unsung hero of this game. His black shields have actually just shut down the pick composition. Santorin, one of the most frustrating things as a Sejuani player is playing against a great Morgana player because they can black shield your ultimate every time. Big has cleanse to get in the way. He has Mikhail's Crucible in case he screws up and doesn't get the black shield in time. So he's just shut down everything and said, we are not going to have these hard engages happen. Because that's how you counter split push. You hard engage on the 4 members, and Big is saying, not today, that's not going to happen. And they're going to slowly pull them apart with this composition.
Dhokla going for the Elder Drake. Remember, Elder Drake is not like Baron. It's actually a very easily soloable objective if you have the right kind of a champion for it. Too. And as you can see, by the health of the Drake compared to the health of the Dhokla, this is a very soloable situation. But now, in the middle, it's OpTic who've got to be careful to make sure, again, they don't get collapsed on, they don't get picked off. Black Shield now down. Means FlyQuest might be able to make it happen unless PoE lands another beautiful stun. 4 members of FlyQuest struck by that one, as now they've got to disengage. Their opponents have the Elder Drake, and OpTic recognized the opportunity to maybe make something happen here. This is a big combat buff.
Yeah, and they're going to go clear the top wave, clear out the Baron of Vision, and then reset, and Dokla's going to go and assist a wave down bottom, push that one in. How much gold is he sitting on? He's got about 2K right now on this back, so it'll get him a piece of an item. And then I think everybody's just going to walk back. Get that top wave going over to PoE here as he has that Dark Seal. Still sitting on that. I wonder if it becomes Magi's or if he actually just subs that out. I would imagine.
I would think he would sub it out for something.
Yeah, because
we've only got 8 stacks on it.
At this point in the game, if you get more stacks than the 8 and you get to like a Magi's, then you probably won the team fight.
You won the team fight that won the game, so you can have your cool 25 stacks while the Nexus blows up. But
yeah. Oh, hold on, JayJ. Oh, Santorin's not there. If they actually can call this and say he's not there, they'll just be able to smite this.
Taken down, PowerOfEvil gets the secure, and now OpTic, double Uber buff under their belts, ready to go. 3.5 minutes on the Baron, less time on that Elder Drake buff that still has about half the duration remaining. Dhokla going to continue split pushing here in the bottom side. And we talked about this guy at the beginning of the game. We talked about OpTic was looking for an answer in the top lane. They seem to have found success, or at least some kind of semblance of it last week with Dhokla being on these comfort picks. And now again, the pressure he's supplied this game, his ability to walk down and say, no, I'll just solo the Elder Drake. This is no problem, because this is the kind of champion I'm playing. You don't do that on something like a big tanky dude. Can you imagine Maokai putting enough saplings to kill an Elder Drake? You need a whole tree of them. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's the thing we've talked stylistically, right? Start of the season, it's like, okay, what's good? Mage's bottom, traditional marksman, funnel compositions. Like, what type of funnel? Is it the Kaisa? Like, all these teams are trying different things, and now we're at a point where we're 6 weeks in. OpTic are saying our best strategy is actually split push compositions with Dhokla playing as a completely separate member of the team, and everybody else playing disengaged, like things like Gragas and Morgana, and making sure that they can kite them around. Because this 4-man has not been successfully engaged on in a while here, and they've been playing so well around split push strategies, and that's what you want to see, because so many teams will screw it up and get engaged on that 4-man. And right here, you see pulling them apart, turret, inhibitor dropping, and nobody is able to get a clean snap engagement.
I am impressed by the macro of OpTic Gaming so far this match. They managed to get themselves a turret. They managed to get themselves an inhib as well, both in the enemy base. And now they'll continue to push here on the top side. Still slightly under 2 minutes left there on the Baron buff. As you can see, the Medjai's was completed for PowerOfEvil. Decides to go with that. He wants that match history buff of showing, hey, look what I won the game with.
And put their names down in the book. Book them, PoE.
The PowerOfEvil Death Note as Dhokla's in the bottom part of the map, still continuing to split push. FlyQuest tries to go for the collapse, but yet again, the collapse collapses. It cannot find success when OpTic is being so diligent with their disengage. And now they'll continue pushing towards this last standing inhibitor. FlyQuest has to find some kind of a way to defend here. You give up 3 inhibs, you allow all those super minions. It's going to be a nightmare as Keane can't find anybody with the shockwave. Dhokla's able to find the kill onto him. The damage continues pouring through. JayJ tries to walk away. He's barely going to hobble himself out as Flame's nearly taken down. Goes into the resurrection from Guardian Angel. It's Dhokla in the back line. His own GA may be popped, but the nexus for FlyQuest will be the same as OpTic marches the entire 5-man squad straight towards the enemy base. They found the nexus. They found the win.
OpTic keep the streak alive. They are now on a 5-0 streak. An insane amount of games to win in a row here, especially in this split that has been topsy-turvy. They have 5 wins. Last split, they were 9th place and had just that throughout all 9 weeks. And they've gotten these 5 in a row. That is insane.
What an awesome showing from OpTic as a team. From PowerOfEvil's 5-man dying breath stun to Big's constant protection of anyone who might get jumped on by FlyQuest to Dhokla's immaculate split pushing. This team played like a team who had a plan, they knew exactly what it was, and they refused to compromise on it. They executed what they knew they needed to do, and that's why they deserve the win.
OpTic, last split, they were second to last. Now they're tied for 2nd place right now with 100 Thieves and Echo Fox. That is insane to think about here. OpTic Gaming have really turned it around. These 5 games in a row for them, where they have taken down opponents like TSM, like Golden Guardians, who are near them in the standings, and they have done such a good job of finding what works for them, and they're playing things pretty slow, but methodical, and you see the rhyme to their reason there.
And it's so fun watching teams figure that out and sort of get their own niche in a split where that is more important than ever. In a time where the meta has been shaken up far more than in the past, you've got to find what you're good at. You can't just see, oh, the best way to play the game right now is lane swaps, or the best way to play the game right now is this or that. We just copy that. You got to find your own path. And OpTic seem to be finding that success right now, doing what they're doing with Dhokla and allowing PowerOfEvil to be this wave clear and allowing Big to protect the team like he has. But to get some more insight on the win, let's hand it over to Dash and the analysts.
Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. First off, we're welcoming Solo to the desk to help us break down this one. But in actuality, I think I want to have a larger conversation because at the top of the day, we pitted 3 teams against 3 teams in a large discussion around our last place spring split teams, 2 of which just played on stage here against the likes of TSM, C9, CLG, these old powerhouse teams where the expectation is so great. And so with an entire season's worth of evidence and this game where they're up against each other, I kind of want to dive back into that conversation about how do we assess the power level of our teams in the LCS, especially in a year like this where the parity and the win rates of these teams are so much closer than normal.
Exactly, and I think what happens a lot of the time, especially when I'm watching an OpTic versus FlyQuest game, is you remember what they were like in Spring Split. You remember the 10th place team versus 9th place team, so therefore whenever something really close happens, you think, man, look at this fiesta, like they're both making these mistakes, but really, when they're winning over 50% of their games, that changes, and you have to change your thinking a little bit, like what if this was actually a TSM versus C9 game?
Right.
What would people be reacting to? And that's trying to remove that past bias in some of the ways you look at these games changes the way I think you evaluate the power levels of these teams.
Right. I mean, I think this game as a whole is a decent microcosm of this discussion because there's so many moments where you can either scratch your head and be like, what was that? Or be like, oh, that was a nice play. Like the pickoffs that just happened at the Drake before that one. This one here is just there's fights all over the place breaking out. And then the fight that finally turns the round is PoE getting this monstrous 5-man stun off.
An insane stun. And you could say maybe the GP ult has moved a little bit to the right, and that never happens, but he GP ulted in that spot for a reason, and PoE managed to just get off that 5-man stun. Total game-changing moment there.
And I think this kind of like brings up what you guys were talking about, where if they don't get this fight off and they don't get the clean ace, then they probably don't win the game. And then it just shows how volatile the league is, where anybody can win just through kind of a small situation or a small team fight.
All right, and you can probably, and somewhat unfortunately, attest to this in the opposite way, only because your team, right, better performance in spring as you are giving right now in summer, but again, so much of the conversation around Clutch right now is with that spring split as the context to, well, they're underperforming now, or, well, they're worse now because their record is worse. But if we then, you know, extrapolate or take a look at the topsy-turviness of the split as it is, or the way that the meta's developed, how can we really assess whether or not Clutch has gotten better or worse than they were in spring?
Yeah, it's difficult. Obviously, if you look at it through just a record standpoint and the standings, then you know we look a lot worse than how we did in spring. But just the way that the league is right now, where anybody can beat anyone and the games are kind of all over the place, and no one really looks all that good except for maybe TL. It's like you can have a split like we're having now, where you're kind of just struggling to find those wins and struggling to be consistent, and you can end up kind of, you know, in last place.
Yeah, and we were talking about this during the game. Even though this game had that incredibly clutch PowerOfEvil 5-man stun moment, it became one of those 10 minutes of getting mid priority, making sure waves are in the right spot, controlling vision, and going for Baron. And it feels like there's a lot of games that get stuck there, right? 100 Thieves is probably the best at breaking that from being stuck there and the most consistent to do it. Unfortunately, this year, you guys haven't been able to win those games, whereas last split, you were able to win those games. In your opinion, how much of being able to win that part of the game dictates your win-loss? Or like, how well is that a skill-expressing moment? Because it's something OpTic's now done 3 or 4 times in a row for these victories.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the ways you pick up a lot of those tougher wins. And it's one of the ways you kind of stay ahead in the standings is just being able to win like the hyper late game scenarios. I think kind of the product of it is just that not a lot of teams have like a great amount of discipline, especially when it comes to late game macro. And it's difficult just to be able to control situations and be able to get the fights that you want to do. And we saw that game that FlyQuest is really trying to start a fight in mid lane, and they're trying to catch PoE, but they're just unable to do it because they don't have the proper setup, they don't have the proper vision control, and then they end up just like starting a desperate fight and losing because of it.
Yeah, and that's kept snowballing around the Baron too, where like Dhokla, once again, second game in a row, just charged up middle and took a mid inhib. Didn't end the game this time, but it's one of those things where it's like that discipline you're talking about to always shove your mid wave, make sure that's pushed up, and you skip that step one time and suddenly you're down an inhib. So it's one of those things where a lot of teams are getting, like you said, bogged down in this mid game where 100 Thieves might be the best at it, but TSM plays a similar way, Clutch has been playing a similar way, FlyQuest has been playing a similar way, and that's almost half your league playing that way.
So as opposed to setting the conversation around determining whether or not any of these teams are good or bad, let's instead try and identify this idea of a power level, or maybe a level of confidence in a team if they are in the postseason. So let's look at these teams that are both sitting around that 6th place position. They might finish anywhere from 4th to 6th place, which means that they will have a best of 5 in that very first quarterfinal week. What is your overall confidence level right now that one of these teams, either OpTic or FlyQuest, would come away with a victory in that first quarterfinal?
Yeah, so confidence level-wise, I would have more confidence in Cloud9 than either FlyQuest and OpTic right now, even though FlyQuest and OpTic are higher in the standings, because I feel like fewer of C9's games are coming down to these incredibly close moments where I feel like OpTic, of course OpTic's performed great in those moments. I would say they're probably like 5-1 in those tight moments. I feel like C9 is probably like 2-4 in those moments, but then C9 has won more games outright with a 10,000 gold snowball or 15,000 gold snowball. So therefore, power ranking, I would put C9 a little bit higher.
And then how about this? Just now that we have the standings out in front of us so we can kind of put some numbers to the image. Again, the idea that only 2 wins separates our first place team from FlyQuest and OpTic Gaming. again, I return to this idea of, well, if I had an 11-1 team, then all of a sudden 7-6 doesn't seem so great because we're 4 wins out. But 7-6, where in any other split we'd say, ooh, this team is, middle of the pack, very much struggling. I don't feel like that's the case this time around.
No, and I think it goes back to another thing we were talking about at the top of the day, where it's hard to get excited about a team in that situation, where like that's the 4th place match that just happened. Very back and forth, exciting, tense match, but not like this team was doing all these great steps and the other team was countering like that. I think the C9 game today was a better example of that, to your point. And so I think at least this weird situation for a viewer to be like, that's the 4th place match right there. These are our 4th best teams.
Do you, Solo, think that the standings being as close as they are is more indicative of the power level of the teams being, more equivalent and or, close together, or more indicative of the way that the game of League of Legends is played right now and kind of the topsy-turvy nature of how wins can come?
Yeah, League is definitely more in a volatile state, whether it be through draft or just the gameplay. But I think that when you have this much parity, I think you look at the games and it seems like teams are like losing the games more than other teams are winning. Like outside of Cloud9 and Echo Fox, and to a lesser extent TL, all the other teams kind of just seem to fall into their wins instead of like dominating the whole entire game and closing out cleanly and really like putting out a convincing win.
So that can, again, kind of play into this idea of it where you struggle to say, okay, I'm now willing to say they're great. I'm on the train.
This was like predicting clutch gaming in spring split.
The line!
It's really similar. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. It's tough because, like a lot of the wins just, it doesn't seem like they're crushing. It doesn't seem like they're, in control.
Right.
It seems like, wow, they found a way to win, or wow, like, I can't believe the other team did this and they got Baron, or I can't believe the other team did this and they got the base race them. So it's fun to watch a lot of the times because it makes the league really interesting and anybody can win.
Right.
But it's hard to tell how good a team is when a lot of their wins come from this.
Hard to analyze, but fun to watch. I'm all right with that. All right, thank you very much, Solo, for joining us on this segment. We've got one more game headed your way before we call it a day. TSM look to break a losing streak versus Golden Guardians. You won't want to miss it.
Now or never.
They want to go after WildTurtle. Akaadian not able to find the initiation. They're looking for a damage. Still going to be coming through. First blood over to Arrow.
I'm moving mid.
Oh shit.
This is good for me. I can clear out. No mana.
Okay.
Can you go?
Turtle goes forward with his Power of Evil barely walking away from that one. The Mystic shot just to the side as Akaadian will go down now. FlyQuest finds one.
Peel back.
Nice.
You win this.
GP. Keane can't find anybody with the shockwave. Dhokla's able to find the kill onto him. The damage continues pouring through. JayJ tries to walk away. He's barely going to hobble himself out as Flame's nearly taken down. Goes into the resurrection from Guardian Angel. It's Dhokla in the back line. His own GA may be popped, but the nexus for FlyQuest will be the same as OpTic marches the entire 5-man squad straight towards the enemy base.
If meat and bread are the backbone of a sub, then Mike's Way is the heart and soul. Lettuce and tomatoes, onions and spices, all drizzled in the juice. That's the difference. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.